Honourable members, prayers. Almighty God, we humbly beseech Thee to look with favour upon this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Grant that it may perform its high duty as in Thy sight. Give divine guidance to the President of the Republic, Thou members of Parliament, and Ministers of State with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, that through the labours of government, this land and people may be well and truly served, and their good purposes for the common human life be realized in our midst. O God, grant us the vision of our country, fair as it might be, country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbour, country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service and honor shall be given to the deserving, country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people and the love for the common good. Bless the efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honourable members, correction of the votes and proceedings of Friday, the 12th November 2021. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Yes, Honourable Member for Brekum East.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Speaker, I was here on the 12th of November 2021, supposed to be Friday, but my name has been captured under the list of absentees.
Very well, the table office will take note. Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. Yes, Honourable Member for Norton.
Let's go to Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, please, item number 8 at page 11, the date for COP26. We have here Monday 1st to Thursday 12th November. Thursday was 11th November, but the date for COP26 should be 31st October to 13th November. That's what is on the UN website, and indeed, the COP26 itself, the organizers of the conference, it was from 31st October to 13th November. So if they could have a second look at the date, but Thursday was 11th, not 12th. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Yes, the Honourable.
Mr. Speaker, on the same page 11, before item 8, the Honourable Second Deputy Speaker. So I think that there should be a comma after Speaker before having the Honourable Second Deputy Speaker, comma, having regard to the state of business of the House, comma. So there should be a comma after that. Then 9, President Rawlings, I know that he is Jerry John, but I see John Jerry. I don't know if it's the same. Jerry John Rawlings, John Jerry Rawlings.
Very well. Any more? Very well. Page 12. Page 13. Page 14. Now, members, in the absence of any further corrections, the votes and proceedings of 12 November as corrected is hereby adopted as a true record of proceedings. We'll move on to item number 5, an urgent question, or urgent questions. Then the urgent question 1 is in the name of the Honorable Member for Pro East, Dr. Kalwado Ko. Yes, for the Minister for Transport. Yes, Honorable Chief.
Speaker, on the urgent questions and questions to the Minister for Transport, the two ministers have communicated to leadership, have engaged the Honorable Minority Chief Whip, and so the decision is that we will defer these questions related to Minister of Transport and then the one for the Attorney General. And instead, we will then start with question number 230 for Minister of Tourism instead. So we will exhaust Minister of Tourism in that order and then take the one related to Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, Speaker. And that is in agreement with the other leaders. Unfortunately, I'm not here to confirm that, but we agreed on that.
Let me listen to the urgent question filer, Honorable Member for Pro East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When the Chief Whip says to defer, exactly what does he mean? Because this question was raised about 2 weeks ago, and then it was deferred because the minister was not available. It's been put on the other paper today, and it's been deferred again. Deferred to when? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member for.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think I wanted to make this point that I followed this urgent question from the Minister of Transport. This is the third time. We were told that he had traveled, but I'm aware that the minister is back in the country. He was here last Friday. There is no reason why this Parliament, the representatives of the people of Ghana, we invite the minister, and he had traveled and will come back on Friday and honor this invitation on Tuesday. It's unacceptable.
Yes, Honorable Chief.
Speaker, I share in the worries of my colleagues, and if you look at the other people, I also have a question directed to the Minister of Transport. I would just humbly plead, because all the things they've said, they are in line. And since last week, I've been engaging the minister on this, and he has said that as soon as possible. Tomorrow is the budget, so hopefully Thursday, let's look at Thursday, between Thursday and Friday, I'm sure the minister will come and do the needful. So I'm humbly pleading with colleagues that we accede to this request, and that we allow him to come between Thursday and Friday to do the needful. It's not something we should drag. I humbly plead with you.
And I see the Deputy Minister for Transport. Didn't I see him around here? Honorable Deputy Minister, is that not him?
Right, Honorable Speaker, I associate myself with what the Chief Whip just said. It's not intended that the minister is not present here. He takes the work of Parliament very, very serious, and it's for unavoidable reasons. But it's always on record that the minister responds to, calls from this house all the time. It's just unfortunate that he's not able to make it this time. But we hope that Friday, when the questions are put, he'll be here to respond to them.
I thought your instructions were to respond on his behalf. Very well. Yes, Honorable Deputy Leader. Deputy Whip.
Mr. Speaker, I think the Chief Whip have told us that he will come on Friday, but we should know why he is not able to come and answer this question. He should convince us, because it doesn't mean he doesn't have the answers, because he has not traveled. He's around. Last Friday, the record shows that he was in the chamber, and his deputy too is here. Doesn't mean they don't have answers to that question. They should convince us why he's not coming.
They are seeking leave for the question to be rescheduled. Very well. When the business committee meeting meets, please make sure to reschedule it next week so that the members can have their questions answered. The other urgent question is also in the name of the Honorable Patrick Abuamo, Kankwe Central. Yes, Honorable, you have something to tell me.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I wrote to your office asking for my question to be stepped down for some further consultation. So I'm stepping it down to be relisted after my consultation. Thank you.
Very well. So you will advise the Attorney General not to, or you will not reschedule?
I will deal with the table office, Mr. Speaker, on that. Thank you.
Very well. So the questions in the name of addressed to the Minister for Transport are 351, 393, 672. The rest are for the Minister for Tourism. Very well. Is the Minister here? Very well. So the first question for the Minister for Tourism is in the name of the Honourable Member for Salaga South, Mezuera Mohammed Ibrahima. Yes, you may ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture the status of the Salaga slave market and whether the ministry has any plans to reactivate the slave market and related tourist sites such as the slave wells that are associated with it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Ghana Tourism Authority, which is an agency of the ministry, has prepared a draft MOU between the GTA and the East Regional Assembly and the Traditional Authority, in line with LI 2393, for the development of the Salaga market and the slave wells, and to convert a disused receptive facility into a museum and a guest facility. So, Speaker, unfortunately, some of the relics, the slave trade, are still available in the receptive facility. Salaga Lorry Park and the slave market have been given out on contract under the President's special initiatives. Contractors have been prevailed upon to landscape the slave market area as part of the development of the market. In addition, Mr. Speaker, the consultant is being procured for the Slave Route Heritage Site project under the Ghana Tourism Development Project funded by the World Bank, which will also involve Salaga. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member, if you have any follow-up question, you may ask them now. Honorable Minister, kindly resume your seat. If you ask a question, then you come back.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to find out from the Minister whether the Salaga slave trade is registered with under the World Tourist Site.
Yes, Honorable Minister, I'm not sure the question is clear. The Salaga slave trade, is there still a slave trade going on at Salaga?
Yeah, the slave trade market. Is it registered with the World Heritage Site?
Yes, Honorable Minister. Is the market a World Heritage Site?
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the question was on this development of tradition. So we'll find out and come back and report later, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minister, do you have some tourist sites registered with the heritage? Are you aware? Do you have any tourist sites registered with the World Heritage Sites in Ghana? Is the Salaga market one of them?
Thank you, Speaker. We have a number of slaves, tourist sites registered with the UNESCO and the UNESCO Convention. We have a lot of them, and I want to find out the Salaga market is part of it. I'll find out and go back to the Speaker.
Yes, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, in the Honorable Minister's answer, he says, and I quote, in addition, a consultant is being procured for the slave route heritage site project under the Ghana Tourism Development Project funded by the World Bank, which will involve Salaga. It's for that reason I asked the question whether the Salaga slave market is registered with the World Heritage Site, and if not, what are the procedures to get the slave market registered under the World Heritage
Honorable Member, you are changing the question. Your follow-up question must be in relation to the question you asked. This is a new fact you're seeking. You can ask that as another question, but for this one, your question must emanate from the answer. Can you ask another question?
Mr. Speaker, my question emanates from the answer provided by the Honorable Minister. I just want to know the status of the Salaga slave market. Is it a World Heritage Site or not? And if it is not, what do we have to do to get it registered as a World Heritage Site, Mr. Speaker? Thank you.
Honorable, do you have any further explanation for this?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we'll get the answers and report back to the House. Thank you.
Yes, you have one more opportunity, Honorable Member. You're done. Very well. Question number 521, in the name of the Honorable Member for Southton, Kwame Mensah Woyome.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. I rise to ask the Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture the cumulative revenue that has accrued from 2017 to date from visitors to Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park and Ministerial, and the steps the ministry is taking to renovate the facility, as it is an iconic tourist site in the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the cumulative amount accruing to the Parliamentary Park since 2017 up to September 2021 is 1,881,803 Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, the Nkrumah Park is now being rehabilitated. We are doing a very comprehensive rehabilitation. A consultant has been procured, and next Monday we meet him to review the plan that is brought. But the rehabilitation includes addition of army block, shops, and eatery to out-value it and make it a truly attractive edifice. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the answer to the question as stated in 51 only indicates the total revenue. But then the steps, you have not indicated that here, but you've read and indicated that the contractor will be going to site by a certain period. So may I know the scope of work and also when exactly they are expected to complete the job? That we believe we are expecting a lot more visitors into the country going into some other activities ahead of us.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the consultants are working on the concepts. By end of November, they'll come back for review. But the scope is a comprehensive rehabilitation of the whole place. We are going to add an army block to it, a number of shops, and a restaurant to make it a truly attractive park for visitors. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, do I consider the comprehensive also include the ensuring that apart from the physical construction and appearance, you would also stock the place with relevant relics, books, videos, and documentaries on the founder of the country? Will it be part?
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Speaker. Yes, includes library to enrich the place and make it truly a tourist attraction in the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's all.
Yes, Honorable Member for Kankwei Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the Minister's answers, you could tell that Ghanaians who visited the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum were 176,589, and non-Ghanaians were 92,937. So my question to you is that, from the statistics provided, Ghanaians patronized the mausoleum more than the non-Ghanaians. Now, I want to find out from you what other steps or incentives you are going to put in place to ensure that we promote domestic tourism at that facility to enable you to raise.
That's another question. That requires your own question. The steps you're taking to promote, that's another matter.
To enhance domestic tourism at that site.
Very well. Yes. Domestic tourism outstrips foreign tourists to the site. Do you intend to promote domestic tourism further at that site? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Oscar, domestic tourism is very important in every dispensation. we've launched a number of activities to ensure that Ghanaians go around the country in terms of domestic tourism. So it's part of not just the Nkrumah Park, but other attractions in the country. So domestic tourism is a key element of our ministry, and we intend to make sure that we double these numbers as the years come on. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
You have others behind you, so let me, before I come to leadership. Yes, Honorable Dafeamapa.
Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. Speaker, in providing some answers to this question to the House, the Honorable Minister gives a certain category of visitors under protocol. If you will be kind enough to explain what that means. Thank you.
Sorry, can you repeat your question? I don't know. Okay.
There's a certain category of visitors to the park that he labels as protocol. That's the fourth column in the table.
Yes, Honorable Minister, can you explain what you mean by protocol to us?
Thank you, Speaker. The protocol involves foreign dignitaries, presidents and vice presidents and speakers from other countries, among others. Thank you.
Does that mean that that group of people do not pay for the visit?
They don't pay.
Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. So, Speaker, question number 521 is in two parts. And if I want to be precise, the question reads, to ask the Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture, the cumulative revenue that has accrued from 2017 to date from the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park and Ministerial. And the second part of the question, and the steps the ministry is taking to renovate the facility as it is an iconic tourist site in the country. So, Speaker, the question asks of the accumulated revenue from 2017 to 2021. And the question is asking the Honorable Minister for Tourism, what steps does your ministry have to renovate the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum? That portion has not been captured in the other paper and in the answer. The minister has brought only a diagram stating only the revenue and the number of people who visited it, and that he has gotten only 1.8 million. So, Speaker, can the minister, since this is a paper of record, can the minister provide a written statement, just as he has done with the revenue portion, so that when posterity, in future, when people come and take the hazard, they will know that this question, the minister did not only answer part, but answer the question as a whole. Well, it is not an urgent question.
Honorable Leader, the Honorable Minister actually provided an answer for the second part, and the questioner followed up from the second part, so the answer will capture it.
Mr. Speaker, since I'm not challenging your judgment, I'm talking in terms of the other people. Copies have been given to the press corps. They are going to use these other people to prepare their history, their news. The Speaker, my worry is that nobody should take these other people and go and conclude that Parliament asked this question and the minister answered part and the other part was not captured in the other people, and we allowed him to go. That is why I'm drawing his attention. If this was an oversight, tomorrow or next time when questions are asked, ministers should provide the answer in totality. Don't bring half written, half oral. So, Mr. Speaker, will the minister be kind enough in getting the written portion from where he read from? Because
when questions are asked and ministers bring the answer, they read from the answer they've given to the table office. Will it be kind enough to leave that portion which was not printed here to the table office, so that tomorrow the Hansard department, when they are printing the Hansard for today, they will print everything in totality. Because this half-answered answer should not go into our Hansard or should not go into our records as the only answer that emanated from the Ministry for Tourism. I want ministers of state, Mr. Speaker, this is not an urgent question. It's only urgent question that the answers are not printed in the other paper. But this is an ordinary question.
Member, if you have another question, please ask it. I've heard all your comments. Now what he has read will go into the Hansard. No problem. But if you have another question, please ask it. Yes, Mr. Honourable Member for Ho Central. Hope.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to find out from the Minister whether these revenue figures quoted in his answer have been audited by the appropriate auditor of the Tourism Development Board.
You may have to file your own question. That does not arise out of the question. The auditing is a separate question, so you may have to file your own question on that.
No, don't challenge it.
Mr. Speaker,
You can't challenge it.
he brought the figures. That's why I wanted to find out from him whether they have already been audited. Otherwise, he can say that they have not been audited, but he got it from another source.
Honorable Order 69(1) deals with supplementary questions. It says as soon as the question is answered in the House, any member, beginning with the member who has the question, may, without notice, ask a supplementary question. Further elucidation of any matter of fact regarding which the answer has been given. But a supplementary question shall not be used to introduce a matter not included in the original question. That is why I'm refusing to admit your question. Any more? Very well, I'll proceed to the next question. Question 522. The honourable member for Krachin Chumru. Mr. Solomon Kuyon.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for this great opportunity offered me to ask a very important question of national interest. Mr. Speaker, I want to find out from the Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture about the current state of the National Museum of Ghana, which happens to be a great symbol of our national identity as Ghanaians.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the National Museum Gallery, situated at the head office of the GMB, was established on the eve of Ghana's independence in 1957. It has since its establishment not seen any major renovation work. It was therefore necessary for it to be shut down in 2015 to give way for the much needed renovation of the facility and reorganization of its permanent exhibition. The project has been rehabilitated and it's about 95% completion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Member. Do you have any follow-up questions?
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Mr. Speaker, I will, for now, take the Honourable Minister's response, be it as it may. However, Mr. Speaker, it is very necessary to refer you to page 136, bullet 737 of the 2021 budget statement and economic policy read on the floor of the Parliament by the Honorable Majority Leader and Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, Honorable Osechi Mensah-Bonsu, on behalf of the Minister for Finance and Economic Planning. Mr. Speaker, kindly permit me to quote, and I read. Mr. Speaker, in 2020, the Ministry, together with the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board, renovated the National Museum Gallery, Osherfort Museum Gallery, Ho and Apam Museums. Mr. Speaker, end of quote. Mr. Speaker, what was captured in the budget was suggestive that the National Museum of Ghana had been fully refurbished or renovated and could be reopened to the general public. However, per the response by the Honorable Minister, that is not the case. I want to further ask the Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture that if the ministry indeed together with the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board had renovated the national museums in 2020 as captured in the 2021 financial budget statement, when exactly the gallery of the National Museum of Ghana will be reopened to the general public?
Yes, Honorable. He says he didn't hear you. Can you repeat your question?
Mr. Speaker, my question is, per his response, or Honorable Minister's response, it shows that the gallery or the museum is still ongoing, the renovation is still ongoing. But if I made reference to the budget, the 2021 budget that was read on the floor of the House, it suggested that the renovation was completed. So what happened?
Yes, according to him, the budget statement said renovation is complete, but you say it's 95% complete. Can you explain the inconsistency?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are several aspects of the gallery. The completion we refer to it means that we are going to stock it with artifacts, and hopefully by 1st January next year, it will be open to the public. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Any further questions?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I asked my last supplementary question, when exactly will the gallery of the National Museums be open to the public?
When will you complete the works, the rehabilitation?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It will be completed by the end of December 2021 and open to the public latest in January 2022.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right, yes.
Thank you.
Bulsa North.
Bulsa South.
Bulsa South. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister if there is a properly constituted governing board of the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board, and if so, when was the board outdoored?
I remember Order 69(1) applies. Kindly file your own question. Yes. Yes, Honorable Norton.
I'm grateful, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, flowing from the Honorable Minister's response at page 19, the Honorable Minister indicates that the Museum's Gallery was shut down in 2015 for the renovation works to commence. I want to find out if the Honorable Minister is conversant with the terms of the contract. How long was the renovation supposed to take? since it started in 2015, do you know how long it was supposed to take? Are we on schedule, or there have been delays? Because I'm surprised that since 2015, the renovation works have still not been completed. So if you can shed some light on the contract.
Honourable Minister, is the work on schedule, or is there delay in delivery?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The work is on schedule and to be completed by December this year and opened in January. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. I'll proceed to the next question. The next question is in the name of Honourable Member for Kwadaso, Dr. Kingsley Nyako, number 523.
Right, Honourable Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to ask this question. I would like to ask the Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture the measures the ministry has put in place or is putting in place to attract foreigners to our tourist sites and historical monuments in the COVID-19 era. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, inbound international tourism arrivals globally have been hampered by COVID-19 pandemic. However, the Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture and its implementing agency, the GTA, has put in place innovative measures to improve international tourism arrivals. One of such measures is the Beyond the Return program. The Beyond the Return initiative is a 10-year program and a follow-up to a successful year of return in 2019 that attracted thousands of visitors to Ghana. Beyond the Return has 7 pillars geared towards strengthening relations with the diaspora community and promoting tourism. So far, Mr. Speaker, there have been campaigns and roadshows in North America to invite African Americans and partner like-minded institutions not only to invest in Ghana, but to visit our key attractions, such as the forts and castles and the historic sites. Through this partnership, Speaker, a road was recently named after Ghana in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, by the Borough Council to further create top-of-mind awareness in the U.S. market about Ghana. The Speaker, secondly, another initiative, December in GH. These are endorsed events and activities organized in December to attract both international and domestic patrons, especially second and third generation Ghanaians born in Europe and America. Some of the popular events such as Afro Chilla, Taste of Ghana, Rhythms on the Runway, Blaze Fashion, 31st, Polo Beach Club, it is the attempt to attract thousands of international tourists to Ghana to participate in the events during the Christmas holidays in Ghana. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, there's also the Emancipation Day and Panifest events. Emancipation Day is celebrated in July, August, commemorate the final abolition of chattel slavery in the British colonies. Ghana was the first African country to celebrate Emancipation Day, beginning in 1998, which attracts considerable African diaspora to Ghana. The Panifest is a biannual festival which celebrates people of Africa and of African descent in the diaspora through arts, culture, music, dance, and theater. So, Speaker, the Panifest attracts diaspora communities both within and outside to visit our forts and castles. Several international visitors attended this year's Emancipation and Panifest events in Ghana. So far, Mr. Speaker, these initiatives are bearing fruit, with international arrivals of 411,000 out of September 2021. Mr. Speaker, this is more than the total year-end arrivals of 2020, which was about 200,000. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Rob Member.
Mr. Speaker, I'm fine with the answers. However, some countries, such as Faroe Island, are using virtual tourism to boost tourism in their countries. And I want to find out from the minister if his ministry is thinking about this possibility or option? Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister. Are you thinking of promoting tourism through virtual means?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are working on an app called Visit, and that's going to be virtual to sell our attractions across the country. We're almost done with it. When it's done, we'll popularize it and make it very attractive to all Ghanaians. We're working on it. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable. You have no further questions? Yes, Honorable Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the question by Honorable Dr. Kingsley Nyako is to ask the Minister the steps he is taking to increase domestic tourism. Mr. Speaker, the answer given by the Minister talk about beyond the returns program and
Honorable Leader, I think you have jumped one step ahead. The question he just answered is 523, and it's to attract foreigners to our tourist sites. The next one, 524, is what will deal with domestic tourism.
Mr. Speaker, 523.
Yes, 523, to ask the Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture the measure the ministry has put in place or is putting in place to attract foreigners to our tourist sites and historical monuments in the COVID-19 era.
Yes, is that not the one that is answered?
Yes.
Yes, my question is, all the three subtitles deal with foreigners, all right. But my point is, what steps are you taking to bring improvement to our tourist sites that will help improve tourism? Because Pan Affairs, beyond the returns and all things, is about marketing. But in promoting, remember what happened in this house about Kintampo Waterfalls. When there was a disaster, we had to go and construct the road. So I want to hear things about road construction, developing of the site, keeping of hotels. What steps is the ministry taking to bring those improvements? They are all part of the development. Well, if you don't develop infrastructure and you are doing marketing, what are you marketing? So my question is, what steps are you taking, Honorable Minister, to develop the infrastructure aspect of the tourist site as part of the promotion of tourism? Well, it cannot just be marketing.
Honorable Leader, I think that is another matter. So you can always ask your own question. Yes, Honorable Norton.
I'm grateful, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the question was in two parts. The second part relates to historical monuments. The Honorable Minister has been brilliant on events. The Beyond the Return program, December in Ghana, Emancipation Day, Pan Affairs, those are all events. But he has not touched on the historical monuments. Is the Honorable Minister able to tell us the state of our historical monuments as is required in the second part of the question, the historical monuments?
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Speaker, we have a comprehensive program to develop our attractions. You cannot have a successful tourism drive without improving on your historical and cultural assets. So we have a plan, Ghana government support and World Bank support. And this includes the rehabilitation of a number of forts and castles, enhancing festivals. We have a comprehensive plan to do all that. We are working with the Chieftaincy Ministry to see how we can put together a team to work on chieftaincy, culture, and arts over the next 2-3 years. So there's a familiar plan to make them attractive for tourists. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Honourable Member, you may ask your next question.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture what measures the Ministry has put in place or is putting in place to promote and increase domestic tourism. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I said earlier, the pandemic has impacted negatively on the tourism arrivals everywhere in the world, including Ghana. The Ministry of Justice Agency, GTA, has therefore put in place the following measures to increase domestic or local tourism. Mr. Speaker, a domestic tourism campaign was launched by His Excellency President Akufo-Addo on 1st June 2021 to create awareness on the need for Ghanaians to patronize our tourist attractions and sites. The campaign that Experience Ghana, Share Ghana is currently ongoing. Also, a travel, share and win component of the campaign was also initiated to drive the Experience Ghana, Share Ghana domestic tourism. Discover, Write and Win promotion is also about to start. So, Speaker, the public is required to select a tourist site or a must-see activity in their community and write about it in such a way that to attract visitors to the tourist attractions. Also, Mr. Speaker, promotional materials, brochures, leaflets have been printed and distributed across the regional offices of GTA to boost domestic tourism. In addition, Mr. Speaker, tourist clubs have been formed across our tertiary, secondary, and junior high schools to kick off tourism drive. Also, in partnership with the Tourist Society of Ghana, we are promoting domestic tourism and encouraging excursions to major tourist sites in the country. Mr. Speaker, the GTA, Tour Operators of Union of Ghana, Tuga, and the Ghana Hotel Association are also collaborating to package tours at affordable sites and rates to various parts in the country. Already, Toga has organized fundraising tours to Central, Ashanti, Volta, and Western regions to acquaint them with the current state of tourist sites in the country. Also, Mr. Speaker, a tourist bus, a double-decker coach, has been acquired by the GTA to promote city tours starting from Accra. The schedule will be repeated in major cities of Ghana. So far, several people have patronized the Accra city tour. We expect patronage to go up significantly during the Christmas season. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry is currently embarking on tourist site upgrades through the provision of visitor receptive facilities, toilets, landscaping, and parking spaces to enhance visitor experience and encourage repeat visits to the tourist site. So far, Mr. Speaker, the following sites have been upgraded: to the Kwashi Cocoa Farm and Exhibition Center, Tafi Atomi, Monkey Sanctuary and Cultural Village, Amabo Heritage Site, and Zelezo Vista Facility. The following sites are also to be upgraded very soon: Yan Santua Heritage Memorial Rehabilitation Project in Ejiso, Pikwori Heritage and Slave Market, Bonwuri Kente Museum, Ebru Botanical Gardens, Zanga Crocodile Pond, Salaga Slave Market, Nkrumah Museum, Craft Village upgrades. So, Speaker, domestic tourism arrivals, which formatted from about 609,000 in 2019 to slightly over 200,000 in 2020, has been increasing since the domestic tourism promotion was launched. The total domestic tourism arrivals during the first half of this year was 353,000. This is bound to increase significantly during the last quarter of this year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Member.
Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to know that some of the sites have received renovation. What I didn't see is the Paga Crocodile Pond. And this is a pond that I think that when we are able to make the place very clean, we are more likely going to attract tourists to that site. So what is being done at the Paga Crocodile Pond? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, honourable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The paragraph of that point is part of the side of this we're embarking on. And before the end of next year, it will be in shape, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Honorable Speaker, we have a lot of holidays in this country, and I'm happy about the steps outlined by the Honorable Minister. What I want to find out from him is what the ministry is doing to cash in on the numerous holidays we have in this country so that Ghanaians within will be able to visit these sites. Thank you.
Yes. It says, what steps are you taking to ensure that people can visit these sites which have poor access roads? Is that right?
During holidays, how can we get, for example, students and parents to visit these sites?
Yes, can you hear him? Did you hear him now?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have various packages to attract domestic tourism. That includes student tourism, corporate tourism, business tourism, funeral tourism, even parliamentary tourism. We are going to share that with all key stakeholders in due course to encourage people so that Ghanaians can visit the country. That would think will build national unity, cohesion, and also redistribute national income. So the packages are there, we'll make them available to stakeholders. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are you done? Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a follow-up to the answer given by the Minister on domestic tourism. And using my constituency as an example, you realize that when tourists come to Kwame, what they usually do is that they visit Etibie, the paragliding site, and probably maybe Chimrasi site. But you realize that they virtually lack knowledge on some tourism sites that we have, some nice rocky areas, unique areas like Esubone, Nketepa, Amate areas. What is he doing as a minister in developing tourism circuits so that tourists, once they visit a particular district, can be given the tourism circuit that outlines virtually every tourism site in a particular district?
Can you break your questions down? What specifically is your follow-up question? Not clear to me.
My follow-up question is that I want to find out from the minister, in promoting domestic tourism, how is developing tourism circuits, a tourism circuit that defines or identifies virtually every tourism site in a particular location, in a particular district, so that tourists who visit that particular district can have easy access or readily available information, so that they do not only visit the known tourist sites, but instead visit areas that have unique tourism attractions but are not known to the general public.
Honourable Minister, did you get him clearly? It says, do you have any plan to provide a one-stop shop of all the tourism sites in the country so that people can have direct information without having to ask where to go? Is that right?
Very well, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're doing a mapping of tourist sites in the country. We are mapping to have peculiarities for each of the tourist attraction. So when we do this mapping, it shows a tourist attraction and everything, the profile of that area. That makes it easy for local and international tourists to identify with the place and patronize it. Also, we're also trying to train all the tourist guides, because they are the first point of contact when the tourists come to Ghana or within Ghana. So we are mapping tourist attractions, get a profile, feed the information, and through the Ghana app, visit Ghana app, every information will be available. Thank you, Speaker.
Okay, therefore I'll go first. Yes.
Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, in in tourism, the arrival figures will mean nothing unless we determine how much they bring in. And so the Honorable Minister indicates that as at now, the domestic arrival figures is about 353,087. Is he able to
have here?
Yes. Is he able to tell the House how much that translates into by way of revenue to the economy? Thank you.
Yes, Honorable, do you have that information? How much that the arrivals reported for half year? How much revenue did it generate?
So, Speaker, we don't have that yet. We would find out.
Yes, Southton.
I'm most grateful, Honorable Speaker. It's Northton. Northton.
Sorry, Northton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've gone through the very tall list of initiatives to promote domestic tourism that the Honorable Minister has presented to the House today. But conspicuously missing is the item which his Honorable Deputy Minister has been promoting since the 8th of November 2021, when he announced that your ministry has added funeral tourism, that funeral tourism is one of the key highlights of your domestic tourism drive. I think he made the announcement on Hits FM on 8th November 2021. That's the Honorable Mark, and he's since been going around promoting it. I want to find out why funeral tourism doesn't feature with the list that you have provided. Or is it that the Deputy Minister is pursuing that on his own accord?
Honorable, yes, if you have announced that you're doing or promoting funeral tourism, why is it not in your list of activities?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have a comprehensive list. We cannot find space for that. It's still part of, it's an important part of our domestic tourism. Thank you, Speaker.
Funeral it's a whole business on its own. It doesn't need any more promotion. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mine is a very short one. Indeed, the minister went to great lengths in outlining what is to be done to promote domestic tourism. He talks about the formation of tourist clubs. He speaks about special packages for parents and students. He even spoke about parliamentary tourism. I want to know from the minister what steps he is taking to ensure that the promotional material that he indicated on page 20, brochures, leaflets, would be available in Parliament as part of the effort to promote tourism. Because we receive a lot of visitors in Parliament, and I think it will be very helpful if some of this promotional material is actually here within the precincts of Parliament. What does he say about that? And what does he plan to do to take advantage of Parliament as a noble to promote tourism?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we would engage leadership and provide materials and encourage Parliament to do that. Thank you.
Yes, Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in the Honorable Minister's answer, in page 21, the following sites are to be upgraded soon. And we have Yasantiwa Heritage, Pikowo No Heritage, Bore Kente, and a whole lot. I want to ask the Honorable Minister, since he said the following
site are to be upgraded soon. Are they going to be upgraded soon because they are in the 2020, they've been budgeted for in the 2021 budget, or they are yet to be budgeted for in the 2022 budget, so that we can be measuring how soon they'll be upgraded?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We already started the preparatory work on them. So they have to work on soon. They are factored into the coming budget.
Very well. The last question on today's order paper is question number 525. Sorry, 372. In the name of the Honourable Member for Bulsa South, Dr. Clement Apak.
Honourable Speaker.
Sorry, that is not in tourism. Sorry. Honourable Minister, we thank you for attending upon the House to answer questions. You are discharged. Now, the next question is for the Minister for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. Yes. Honourable Member for Bulsa South, you may ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs when the process to elevate some chiefs in the Bulsa traditional area to paramount chiefs would be completed.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the issue of the elevation of chiefs to a paramount status is a question of custom and tradition, and to the extent to which an overlord can grant a paramount status to a chief within his jurisdiction, or the extent to which a paramount chief can elevate a chief within his jurisdiction to be of equal status to him. Mr. Speaker, what customary or traditional prerequisites are to be satisfied are a determination of the discretion of the overlord or the paramount chief, and not within the domain of the Ministry of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, or within the ambit of the Minister of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. Mr. Speaker, the Bulsa traditional area comprises of divisional chiefs, and the paramount chief of the Bulsa is the paramount chief of Sandeman. Mr. Speaker, at Regulation 13.1 of the Chieftaincy, membership of Regional Houses of Chiefs Instrument 2020 LI 2409 is listed the members of the Upper East Region House of Chiefs, and inclusive in the list is the paramount chief of Sandema. And in sub-regulation 13.1c of this same legislative instrument, it is stated therein that 5 of the divisional chiefs from the Bulsa traditional area shall be selected by the President of the Bulsa Traditional Council in consultation with the Bulsa Traditional Council on rotation to be members of the Upper East Region House of Chiefs. Mr. Speaker, in further elucidation of the position of paramount chiefs, it ought to be noted that a traditional area denotes the area under the jurisdiction of a paramount chief, and each traditional area shall have a traditional council, and the president of that traditional council is the paramount chief. Mr. Speaker, the composition of a traditional council consists of persons whose names appear in the National Register of Chiefs, and therefore by necessary inference, members of a traditional council fall within the domain of the paramount chief, and they owe allegiance to him.
Honourable members, order.
The divisional chief from the Bulsa traditional area is in the following order of skin names: Bachonsa Nap, Doninga Nap, Fumbisa Nap, Bendina Nap, Bedelbilisa Nap, Kadima Nap, Kajanga Nap, Siniensa Nap, Wiek Nab, Uwasa Nab. Mr. Speaker, in keeping with the tenets as presented in Article 270 of the 1992 Fourth Republican Constitution, the dignity, integrity, and sanctity of the chieftaincy institution must be upheld, and nothing ought to be done to detract or derogate from the prescriptions. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, since one of the main defining elements of the chieftaincy institution is the custom and the traditions, nothing must be done or seem to be done to disturb the honor, dignity, and sanctity of the chieftaincy institution. Mr. Speaker, it is in particular regard to this that we cannot overrate our hands to suggest a date, prescribe or give timelines as to the determination or elevation of a chief to paramount status. The custom and tradition regarding these processes are in the bosom of the traditional authority, the stool or the skein, as the case may be. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, honourable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I really do appreciate the very detailed response that the minister has given. Mr. Speaker, even so, on page 23, the list is 11, but it should actually be 12. WSNAP has not been listed, so I want to draw the minister's attention to that. Mr. Speaker, my follow-up question is, would the minister consider verifying and supporting the ongoing, although he has stated very clearly that these are matters dictated by tradition, culture, and so the state should remain minimal in its interference.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The ministry's role is to facilitate the processes, and I can give my colleague the assurances that once the overlord initiates the processes, whatever the ministry ought to do to facilitate the processes will be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the processes are already ongoing, so I will invite the minister to do what he says he would do if the processes were to be ongoing.
But it does not lie in your mouth. The traditional will tell you.
Mr. Speaker, since this is on chieftaincy, Mr. Speaker, just a quick point. Since it's on chieftaincy, I wish to use this to commend the people of the Fumbisi traditional area and the Busa Traditional Council. Yesterday, a new chief was selected to become the new Fumbisi chief, and it went peacefully, and I think they ought to be commended. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I encourage you to make a statement on the floor. Don't use this opportunity.
I will do so. I will do so, Mr. Speaker.
Very well.
I have 3 new chiefs coming up. I ought to make a statement at the right time.
I'm sure it will be admitted by Mr. Speaker. Yes. Any follow-up question?
That will do, Mr. Speaker. The minister has assured me.
All right. Thank you, Honourable Minister, for appearing to answer the question. You're discharged. Honourable members, that is the end of question time for today. Statements. Is the Honourable Member for Nshayesu in the House? We agreed that we'll take a statement. Yes, Honourable Member for Nshayesu, you may now read your statement.
Mr. Speaker, assuming we are done with questions, because on the other paper, the Minister for Transport was to answer questions on the Cater Seaport.
Honourable Leader, you appear to be coming behind schedule. We have discussed that and gone over that. We have agreed that the questions for the Minister for Transport and the Attorney General will be rescheduled. Yes, Honourable Member for Nshayesu, may read your statement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, thank you for this prestigious opportunity. My legislative duty is to present a statement on the anomalies in the Treasury bills rate and fixed deposits rate, which contribute to Ghana's double-digit interest rate economy, and the inadequacy of funds to our business community. This is one of the most important financial economic fundamentals, which requires an immediate attention by all relevant stakeholders. Mr. Speaker, the main goal of any country in the world, either a developed or developing economy, is to attain long-term economic growth and stability. This goal cannot be attained if there are still unresolved wrong economic fundamentals. Some of these are identified in our economic policy framework. For instance, monetary policy decisions in curbing soaring inflationary rates, free market policy, minimum wage policy, and a few others. I will, however, firmly concentrate on today's agenda. Mr. Speaker, as a country, our long quest for the attainment of independent economic statehood cannot be realized if our fundamental financial economic practices and decisions still remain dysfunctional to the performance of our sovereign republic. The world has become a global village. We cannot rub shoulders with a fractured clavicle. We need to redefine our socio-economic focus as a country. But first, and most crucial, we need to preliminarily identify our economic fundamental errors and fix them. Our sovereignty enshrines the right and freedom to make state-specific decisions so that we can be globally competitive and economically independent. We cannot continue to manage our resources and socio-economic policies by the policy discretions of the IMF, World Bank, and other global bodies. We may one day not fall within their priority charts. Besides, I sometimes even find their conditions, Mr. Speaker, unreasonable, quiet, unsystematic, and strategic drift. Mr. Speaker, Treasury bills are classified by models, finance experts, and economists as risk-free assets. The higher the risk, the higher the expected returns. Is the global acceptable risk and return principle in all investment portfolios. Mr. Speaker, in Ghana, however, risk-free assets, their interest rates are often higher than those of risky assets. What I'm trying to say is that Ghana is the only country I know. It doesn't matter who is in power. Treasury bills give returns often more than the risky fixed assets in our country. And it is an implicative of the fact that returns from risky assets, such as fixed deposits, should be more than returns from treasury bills in the same jurisdiction. In Ghana, we often experience anomalous situations on our capital market, which have contributed immensely to our poor sinusoidal economic performance. High unemployment rates, weak currency, and more specifically our double-digit interest rates and inadequate funds available to fiscal investors in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, we should know that the fiscal investors are those who create value chains for our employment to be expanded or employment opportunities to be expanded. I'm reading the statement, please. Continue. Mr. Speaker, in Ghana, we often experience anomalous situations on our capital market which have contributed immensely to our poor sinusoidal economic performance. If investors lend to government at rates higher than private institutions, fiscal investors who create value chain for the labor force and productivity will often lack adequate funds and experience unbearable interest rate. Then what will happen is that we will, as a country, always have unsustainable job opportunities. In fact, a research conducted using bank integration has revealed that treasury bills and money supply are the most significant explanatory variables of fixed deposits. These two variables are all managed by the Central Bank of Ghana. The pricing of our T-bills are not done by the banks in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, I would like to commend the Bank of Ghana for reforming the banking industry in Ghana. However, I would like the House to take steps to engage the Central Bank of Ghana and other relevant stakeholder bodies, such as the Finance Ministry, to review their policies and regulatory frameworks in dealing with these very important financial economic fundamentals. Mr. Speaker, governments of Ghana are accordingly observed to be competing mostly unproductively with the private institutions. Private sector is the engine of growth in every country. The cyclical effect is that this anomaly rather vitiates our endeavor to grow and stabilize the economy of Ghana, create jobs, produce our own goods and services, increase export, reduce importation, strengthen our currency, and inability to meet our revenue targets. Findings from some selected banks in Ghana indicate and support the fact that often risk-free assets such as T-bills offer rates more than risky assets. This has been the case for our over 20 years, and even as of now, or as at 8 February 2021, the average treasury bill rates from the banks of Ghana and 3 other banks for 91 days, 182 days, and 365 days were about 13.76, 14.30, and 16.19 respectively. Comparable average rates from the 3 selected banks for the same periods were 9.50, 10.17, and 12% respectively. In fact, the big banks' investment returns for 1 year to lenders was about 9.50. This contributes majorly to the double-digit interest rate economy in Ghana. If any investor body will forgo higher risk-free rate by the government and give loans to any other body in the security space, what will happen is that it will rather attract higher interest rates. Investors will always face a great deal of challenge in accessing the rushing loans that we have in Ghana. Asset pricing formulas by Sharp, 1964, Ross, 1976, Hanan and Lian, 1993, and Derming, 2015, support the principle that return from risky assets as fixed deposit rate is made up of returns from both risky assets, such as treasury bill, plus a premium to compensate for the risk that investors take. We are endeavoring to attain first-class economic status and be categorized as a developed economy. This will not come on a silver platter, Mr. Speaker. We need to adopt the right market and economic policies. We need to operate a very efficient market that will impact and strengthen correlation between the standard of living and the economic performance. It does not really matter which fraternity is in power. Ghanaians are always complaining that they do not feel the economy in their pockets. Ghanaian businesses always complain against the edge that foreign traders have over them. Although we cannot ignore the specific risk factors of these firms, the search for the long-term economic growth and stability of Ghana may be permanently jeopardized should this anomaly continue. Mr. Speaker, it is time we move from double-digit interest rate economy to single-digit interest rate economy to enable us to expand our domestic industry. I am accordingly admonishing the entire House, irrespective of one's political divide, to join this great effort so that we can redeem the country from this economic policy drift. Democracy is not perfect, but freedom to decide on what is nationalistically productive is in the House is divine. Sorry. Mr. Speaker, I think our August House can initiate an engagement exercise with the Ministry of Finance, Bank of Ghana, and other relevant stakeholder bodies to work towards the correction of this financial economic anomaly. Mr. Speaker, please permit me to quote. The
the representation is of a national character as much as a constituency character. And therefore, your first duty is to your nation. That is paramount. That means the national interest. If the national interest is well defended, projected, then the interest of your constituencies will be served. This was by Honorable Right Babin. That is 206. Our speaker, please. This supports my passionate call for the House to look beyond our constituencies and groups' interests and come to a point of convergence where, Mr. Speaker, we cannot continue to afford this double-digit interest rate economy. Yes, there are other factors to be considered, but I still think we cannot heap scorn on the supremacy of the regulation and the relevance of the required solution. We must beat the odds together, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there should be a political consensus as a matter of importance in rectifying this financial economic anomaly. This will facilitate the needed actions and processes in our inevitable quest for the attainment of single-digit interest rate economy. It is accordingly imperative that stakeholder bodies such as the Ministry of Finance, Bank of Ghana, and other relevant bodies work closely to correct this irregularity. Once again, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity.
Honourable members, any contributors, any comments? Yes, Honourable Member for Buakwa South.
I'm grateful to you, Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to say a few things about this all-important statement ably delivered by my colleague, Honourable Dr. Stephen Amua. Honourable Speaker, as I listened to his disposition, what was very uppermost in my mind is that we can never complain about this economy until we migrate from what the President called the Georgesburg economy to a place where you have industrialized. Honourable Speaker, if you look at the structure of this economy of ours, it is very clear that we are still exporting raw materials to foreign countries. And then we lose the value addition, which it is said will always bring us the necessary foreign exchange that we need to be very, very strong as an economy. So it is imperative that since independence, we are still exporting raw materials. Let's come to cocoa. And I keep saying that cocoa is supposed to be one of the main cash crops we have. Honourable Speaker, the Western world, and by extension America, and even China, have a huge taste for chocolate. And at such a time that we are able to produce chocolate here, employ a lot of Ghanaians in factories, and export shiploads of chocolate to these countries, we'll be complaining about what my brother is worried about: treasury bill raise, fixed deposit, and risky assets, and how they impinge on the economy. Because essentially, Honourable Speaker, if you do not have the requisite capital base, the concomitant is that you have a challenge interest rate. How are we going to have a single interest rate and maybe single inflation when at the end of the day we borrow so much even to augment our budget? I think the call that we should interrogate these matters and even bring the Bank of Ghana to look at some of these factors which undermine the economy is opportune. But my genuine fear, as always, is that we are very strong on discussions and talking. It is about time we move from talking to action. Because if we do not do that, this economy will be mocking us. And it's not a factor of political color. The structure of this economy is not NDC, it's not MPP. It is a structure which is foreign dependent, painfully foreign dependent. And until such a time that we break the shackles of the foreign economic dominance of this economy, although we have more natural resources than some of the economies outside, I think we'll be having many more of such statements. Honorable Speaker, this statement is very, very opportune, and there is the necessity to address the economic fundamentals of our dear nation. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for my brief comment on this statement.
Yes, Honorable Member for.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, let me thank the maker of the statement, my bosom friend, the Honorable Dr. Stephen Amwa. Mr. Speaker, I do know that he has been very passionate about this very topical issue. Basically, when you are raising money, there are two main markets. The money market, where you go for short-term instruments, and the capital market, where you go for long-term instruments. Long-term instruments come from the capital market. And the word capital is from the Latin word capus, which is like head. But if I were to translate it in P, the accounts have the best term for it, ujetri, which is what anchors your business. And so normally, you want capital funds that are relatively cheap and that can enable you to engage in productivity. And in most markets, from the capital asset pricing model, which is basically about what you earn when you invest, it's basically two areas. There is free rate, which normally is the government bonds. Because government is believed that in worst case scenario, they'll print more money through seigniorage and all the other areas. And then because of the issue of risk, because I'm not giving it to government and I'm giving it to like a private bank, there should be a certain premium and the beta, which is the speed of adjustment, to determine the top up that you get. Other than that, everybody would then go to government. So the situation should be such that they would earn from giving it to government should be lower than what you get when you give it to the private sector, which is the banks. The essence is that when you give it to the banks, they are more efficient in terms of resource mobilization. Because what banks basically do is to engage in resource mobilization from a surplus unit and then to support other private sectors. That's where there's a deficit or where they need funds. But like he said, what happens in Ghana is that when you lend to government, you earn more than when you lend to the private banks. So it creates a certain distortion. And that is what he is trying to draw our attention to. And I think that as a house, all of us ought to be concerned about this anomaly. It is normally not the case in most economies. Why would I give my money to government and earn more when if I give it to a commercial bank, I earn less? And so everybody is gravitating towards government bonds like treasury bills and all those instruments, fixed deposits and the rest. So the short of it is that what can we do to ensure that people who have surplus or who have funds will rather take it to the private banks and then earn some additional interest rather than all of us rushing to the government. Having said this, Mr. Speaker, I think that is the essence of what my brother, the Honorable Stephen Amwa, seeks to draw our attention to. And I think that is something that all of us ought to be concerned about as a house, because the cost of doing business in Ghana is not that easy. I do not want to get into the politics of it, but if we can make the private banks mop up more revenues, mop up more funds, then that funds will be really available to support local Ghanaian entrepreneurs
to support businesses, to support others, especially when it comes to like venture funds and all those new ways of securing funds and securing credit. So, Mr. Speaker, without taking too much time, let me thank my colleague for bringing this. It is my prayer and hope that, Mr. Speaker, if not for anything, you may want to even direct the Finance Committee as we engage the Bank of Ghana to inquire what we as a House can also do in order to turn the tide so that the funds rather can be channeled to the most productive sectors of our economy. On that note, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you, but just to add one other thing, which is related to this, the exchange rate regime. I hold the view that we should also engage the Bank of Ghana so that the Bank of Ghana can strategically identify certain sections of the productive sector, such as industry, so that when they need forex, they can get those forex at a relatively cheaper price. Other than that, what you are then doing is that you are making the forex available for the importation of rice, poultry, and those other products that do not really help our economy. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for indulging me. I'm most grateful.
Yes, Honorable Member for Manson Kwata.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving the opportunity to contribute to this important discussion on our monetary and financing issues in this country. When we talk about government using treasury bills and the reset, it's all dependent on the issue of amount of money in circulation. And this normally we call inflation. This comes about when we are making payments not supported by production. And that's how normally you say that more money chasing few goods. So where we are paying not supported by production, it means that we may have excess liquidity that is moving in the economy that will cause prices to rise. Governments, in attempt to ensure mobilizing the money in circulation to reduce the inflation pressures on the economy, may increase the treasury bill rates as a way of attracting the public to finance to the government to mop up the excess liquidity in the system. At the same time, government can also set up interest rates in such a way that, apart from attracting the people, they also set taxes in a way that it can also mobilize the excess liquidity in the system. When it comes to the private sector, they are also influenced by the behavior of their customers, where people will borrow the money and they will say that this is government money, so you won't pay. That exposes the banks to high risk of default. So when banks are also going to face the high risk of default, then they also set their interest rates above the government rate so that you'll be able to attract people to come in, and they will also try to give out money and make something for those who are putting money with them. But the issue here is that when government is borrowing, they are borrowing to have money to help mobilize the excess liquidity. And when banks are also borrowing, they take money from the people and give it back to those who are in the system if they need more money. So in the process, if they take the money at higher rate and they cannot get the payment in terms of the payback, they mean that the banks are exposed to high risk. So we may see that in this system, while the government is borrowing at higher rate for the treasury bills, banks, because of the exposure to the risk of default, they will set their rate a bit lower so that they can attract money to also get something out of it when they give it to the public. One interesting issue is that it's about timing. Where you are going to invest into a longer period, that means that what banks will give out will take a longer time for payment. That will also increase their risk. So you see that in this frame, treasury bills are used in the short term. So banks too are going to borrow from the people at short term. So if they're going to borrow at the short term, they may have excess of current account money sitting with them. So why do they have to go in there and take more money at a higher rate? If they have current account money sitting in there, they can give it out in the short term. They won't borrow excess money from the market at a higher rate. On that route, they will set their interest rate lower so that they can also give it out at a rate that will also earn something for those who are coming in a bid to ward off excess money that will be at the banks. At the same time, when government is going to support the business well, they will also lend at concessional rate. So when government is borrowing at higher rate and they want to support the private sector, they will rather give out the money at a concessional rate. That means that the money the government is going to give out will help the banks to give the money to the public sector and to the private sector at a rate that they can also use it to finance their businesses. So the point is that if you want to ensure that we have a balance between the banks and the government rate that they charge, then the behavior of the people in the first place. How do we behave toward our loan that we collect? The moment the people are able to reduce the risk of the banks by paying at that time, they're paying the amount given them, then it means that the bank will have lower risk. And when they want to give out any money, they can also give loans at concessional rate. But so long as the behavior of our people, the system behavior where we have excess liquidity and we don't produce enough to control money in circulation, and where we also don't pay the bank back at a good time or the money that they give us, they will also be charging more. So where these behaviors are controlled and we are paying back and government is also having production supporting any payment, rates will come down automatically. Because when we manipulate the rates without looking at the market, by all means the market will expose you. So where the market is good, all these rates will come down and business will be good. So it's better, Mr. Speaker, for all of us as country to educate our public, to educate our business people, that when they take money from their banks, they should have the ability and capacity to pay back. That will reduce the excess amount we are paying as interest. If you don't go by that, and our behavior always support the idea to have banks suffering from default, the interest rate will always be higher. So in the nutshell, Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude and say that while government will be borrowing for the people at market rate, they will lend at concessional rate to support businesses. But banks, they in the short interim will also be borrowing at a concessional rate, charged at the market rate. So if the behavior is good, our interest rate will go down and business will also have the opportunity to increase their production and support the economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving this speech.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first I want to commend my colleague for such a well-researched statement. Mr. Speaker, I am aware that my colleague has been very passionate about this subject for quite some time. And even at the level of committee, he has discussed with some of us some of his findings in relation to the misalignment between the pricing of treasury bills and the pricing of assets that are provided by our financial institutions and the banks. And rightly so, because, Mr. Speaker, the government is the most creditable borrower in any country. And when the government borrows, the expectation is that there will not be any default. And so you expect that when government is borrowing with the full strength of the state behind it, the government should be paying less. And because the entities that are regulated by the Bank of Ghana themselves are subject to several risks and may actually expose your deposit and your funds to some level of risk, which does not exist with lending to government, we expect those entities to pay more in order to compensate for the risk that you are taking on when you give them the money. Unfortunately, in Ghana, unlike other countries, the government rather tends to pay more, whilst the entities that are more riskier tend to pay less. And as a result, there is always traffic in moving those resources that should be going to the private sector to the government, because everybody looks for a safe haven. And so if the state is to ensure that the private sector is having access to those resources to work, then we need to factor into the pricing model that the banks use the appropriate risk that they carry when you give them the money. But we will operate an open market economy. And with an open market economy, it is very difficult for government and the regulators to fix interest rates. And so you notice that over the years, successive governors have tried so hard to work towards bringing down interest rates in order to be able to normalize this imbalance. Recently, the Bank of Ghana abolished the use of the base rates. You recall that all our banks used to have base rates where every bank will look at certain parameters within its operations and set a base rate. So the base rate that ADB, for instance, will set is different from the base rate that Standard Chartered will set and the base rate that other banks will set. The challenge of that was that it was very easy for the banks to transfer their own inefficiency into the pricing for the consumer who buys and borrows from them to pay for it. So the state decided through the Bank of Ghana to say that we want to set a Ghana reference rate. And that Ghana reference rate would apply to all banks, so that the only difference between the cost of a loan in one bank to the cost of a loan in another bank will just be the level of risk that we are taking on from that particular customer. So if the company is riskier, it will pay a better and higher rate premium. If the company is a top-notch company, then it will pay less in terms of the premium. So we've been operating the Ghana reference rate for quite a while. But it still appears that there are rigidities in terms of the movement of interest rate downwards. And the reason is because the formula used for calculating the Ghana reference rate itself is dependent on the interest rate my colleague is talking about, the Treasury bill rates. So the Bank of Ghana says that we take about 40% of the Treasury bill rate, we take about 40% of the policy rate, and then we take about 20% of the T-bill rate as the cost of the cash that you keep in the bank, so that depositors, when they arrive, you are able to service them with those money. But because those monies, you are keeping them and you are not investing them, you are not earning anything on it. So we want to give you some return for keeping cash in order that you can serve your customers. So when you put the weight of all these together, it gives us what we call the Ghana reference rate. What it then means is that the Ghana reference rate will still not serve the purpose if that major component, which is the T-bill rate itself, is high. So you see, because we are relying on the T-bill rate itself to calculate the Ghana reference rate, whatever challenges we are having in the T-bill rate will directly impact the interest rate that you have in the economy. And again, when you find that the economy is struggling to cope with inflation and the rest, and your policy rates are not going down, then these two put together gives you about 80% of the Ghana reference rate, and therefore you are unlikely to have any benefit of moving the interest rate down. So what that then means is that we need to look very critically at the recommendations that my colleague has made in order to see how we can bring down the Treasury bill rates, then manage the economy better in order that the policy rate can come down. And since these two are the variables that are impacting interest rates, then interest rates will come down. But Mr. Speaker, we have a very big challenge with this, because the Treasury bill rates themselves are set by government and not the Bank of Ghana. It is when government goes to the market to borrow that government decides how much it is willing to pay for 90 days, how much it is willing to pay for 182 days, and how much it is willing to pay for 365 days. The question then is, why is government then not deciding that I will borrow 91 days at a lower rate? The challenge is that if government is going to reduce those rates, investors are not going to give government the money. They will be seeking to look for other avenues that they can get more than the government is offering. And so government becomes constrained in its ability to dictate lower the Treasury bill rates. And one of the reasons why we are struggling with this is because government has to look at its entire portfolio of funding needs, which we call the gross financing needs of government. Now, that gross financing needs of government include, one, the amount of money it needs to finance its deficit. Two, the amount of money it may need to borrow in order to refinance its maturing debt obligations. And then three, the amount of money it needs to meet the rollover of the short end of the market, which is the Treasury bills. So when the government has a very high gross financing needs, then that government cannot take any action that will lower the appetite of the citizenry and investors in its own borrowing regime. And so it is compelled to stay with a higher interest rate in order that it can attract as much money as it wants. Records available at the depository of the the securities depository shows that if you take the government of Ghana's own gross financing needs and you take the amount of monies that were borrowed by state agencies such as ECG and the rest, you put all that together,
government alone borrowed over 205 billion in the depository. Now, what that means is that if government requires 205 billion in an economy that has a total GDP of about, say, 300 billion, it means that is already 2/3 of the entire size of the economy. And so you need to entice depositors to bring you the money. Otherwise, you can't get that money. And if you don't get that money, you have a problem with financing the budget, you have a problem with rolling over your short-term securities, and you have a problem of facing a default in terms of your maturing debt obligations. And it is one of the constraints that we have in terms of ability of government to bring down the treasury bill rates controlled by government itself. In the 2020 budget, in fact, the 2021 budget, if you put the deficit together with all other maturing obligations that have to be rolled over, the World Bank and the IMF and the government itself indicates that our gross financing requirements is about 80 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, this is a very high financing requirement. This excludes other state agencies that may need money in order to operate within the system. So when you have this level of crowding out and this level of competition with the private sector, the chances are that interest rates will continue to rise or stay at the level where they are. But the pricing models across the globe, as we all know, is that the riskier assets pay more, and government is not a risky asset and should not be paying more. But where government is paying more, then the private sector has a challenge in getting cheaper credit. And once they are difficulty in getting cheaper credit, they cannot grow the economy, they can't expand their operations, they can't employ people, and the unemployment situation continues to rise. On this note, Mr. Speaker, I would like to recommend that we take a critical look at some of the recommendations, but to encourage government to find a way to deal with the rising gross financing needs of government. That becomes a major problem. In fact, the Bank of Ghana's own report indicates that if you take the balance sheet and the investment portfolio of our banks, 80% of the investment portfolios of our bank are loans that they have lent to the government. So if the banks are lending 80% of their investment to the government, then quite clearly the private sector won't be able to access that money, because the requirement to borrow that money and the appetite to lend to the private. No. In that case, we have a challenge in growing the economy. And we have a big challenge which will require a structural transformation of our economy. Our economy has structural and institutional rigidities that must be addressed. And once we address that, the efficiency of the market will begin to work towards bringing interest rate down, and the private sector will benefit. Then government will not have to borrow at an excessively high rate, even though it is the most risk-free borrower in our economy. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Deputy Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I'm tempted to speak because this statement seems to be one of the best statements to have been presented in this House. I would have been of the view that the maker of the statement should have distributed copies of the statement to members or his colleague members in the Finance Committee to be able to make an insightful input into the contributions, to be able to help our Finance Minister to drive the affairs of this country in the best direction. Mr. Speaker, the introduction of the statement alone is enough to draw the attention of this House that there's job to be done. And before I begin, Mr. Speaker, I want to draw your attention or to make a humble appeal to you that a directive must be given to the Finance Committee to take this statement and work on it and put other suggestions into the recommendations to be able to assist the Minister for Finance, because we are in it together.
Mr. Speaker, the introduction read, the legislature duty is to present, a statement on the anomalies in the Treasury bill and the fixed deposit rates, which contribute to Ghana's double-digit interest rates and the economy. Mr. Speaker, what anomalies is the maker of the statement talking about? Mr. Speaker, why is the double-digit interest rate a trouble to our economic development? Mr. Speaker, why are businesses in the country finding it very difficult to access loans to be able to carry on their businesses? And what are the impacts of the lack of adequate funding for our businesses in the country to the unemployment rate in this country? So, Speaker, if you juxtapose the non-availability of funding, government competing with the private sector in the fund market. As Speaker, this is a clear indication why the unemployment figures are very high. And I'm saying that you directed the Finance Committee in that reason. The Speaker, if you go to our business sector now, the Honorable Azikadongo, when he was speaking, he said 80% of the loans of our private banks in the country are monies they've loaned to the Bank of Ghana. The Speaker, the businessmen now find it very convenient in loaning to government than loaning to even other businesses because of the risk involved. And the Speaker, if businessmen are competing with government, why will the interest rate not be double digit? Because government is safer. The banks find it very easy in tracing government and asking government for their money. Government go with a secured guarantee. I'm a private sector. If I happen to go and compete with the government that have a secured guarantee, and the private sector who doesn't have a secure guarantee, who will be given? These are the challenges. The Speaker, there is much to it, and that is why I'm saying that this statement must be directed. What is it? The Speaker, our businesses now, the Ghanaian businesses are finding it very difficult. You go to Makola, how Makola used to be, it is not like that today. Go to Kajetia, how it used to be, it is not like that today. The traders don't have access to the funding because people prefer, the banks even prefer investing in treasury bills than even giving the money to the businesses. And we are in a country where people are engaged in buying and selling, small and medium businesses. If they have no funding, they will be tempted to fold up. And if the interest rate is high, they will be finding it very difficult to break even. If you're a businessman, you cannot break even, and the taxes are there, the interest rates are there. Before you pay your cost of business, you are already in a very distressed business. That is why most businesses have folded up. And the workers, most workers laid off. These are realities. People find it very easy now doing government work or white-collar jobs than going into their own businesses. We tell people, oh, you have to engage yourself in entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, where is the funding? The source of the funding, you are going to compete with the giant, who is government. Mr. Speaker, do we have domestic banks? No. Development everywhere, where economies are properly managed. If you go to India, they have the India Exim Bank. If you go to China, they have China Exim Bank. If you come to Ghana, courtesy President Mama, we have the Ghana Exim Bank. The Exim Banks play a role in making sure they are able to control some of these rates. I remember when we were debating the formation of the Ghana Exim Bank in this house and the Ghana Infrastructure Fund in this house, the Honorable Professor Jambafo made a very good contribution. And he had a very tough debate with the Honorable Minority Leader, Honorable Aaron Edrisu, when he said, if we want to support the businesses in Ghana, the Exim Bank and the Infrastructure Bank, their rate should not be the same like the commercial banks. And he had reason for that. Mr. Speaker, fine, we've been able to set up the Ghana Exim Bank. We've been able to set up the Ghana Infrastructure Bank. But now, there are a lot of other domestic banks which are no more. So the Indians are doing Ghana. They used to have the Bank of Baroda or Bank of India. The Chinese, almost every country, in coming to do business in other countries, they come with banks. If you go to the ShopRite and the South African businesses here, the Speaker, they have the Stanbic Bank. So countries move along with banks, where businesses and banks go together. So if you want to control the risk involved in some of these treasury bills and some of these capital for businesses, the Speaker, we must draw our attention to the establishment of domestic banks. The Speaker, fancy a Ghanaian businessman and a Nigerian businessman going to compete for a contract. Then funding becomes a challenge. The Nigerian businessman in Ghana have access to Nigerian banks. Where are our domestic banks? What role were they playing? The Speaker, when I was learning commerce in secondary school, those days it was called commerce, we learned about development banks. We learned about commercial banks. We learned about bank for housing. We learned about the bank, central banks. We learned about all those things. In my secondary school days up to now, the Speaker, I learned these things in books. Where are Ghana's development banks? Where are Ghana's commercial banks? Where are Ghana's investment banks? These are the areas that will support the business sector to be able to bring down this rate that we are talking of. The Speaker, we may not be able to control unemployment if we don't take critical look at the treasury bill rate and the interest rate and the inflation rate. These are very critical. And the work of it all, before I conclude, Mr. Speaker, now there's a China mall in Ghana. Manufacture the items in China, flow them direct to the China mall, and the Makola woman who used to go to China to bring the items here to come and sell found it very challenging. So he had to fold up to go and sleep in the house. Mr. Speaker, there's a shop right here. There's a Stanbic Bank here. The South African factory which manufactured the items in South Africa, the fruit juice and the one that our women used to go and bring. The South African businessman go to Stanbic Bank, take the facility, go to South Africa, manufacture the items there, bring them to ShopRite. What would the Ghanaian woman, businessman in Makola do? She has no domestic or individual bank to go for facility. Neither has she access to the factory. And these are all challenges. It adds to the high rate of unemployment that we have in the country. So, Speaker, I learned when I went to Washington to learn about the workshop you sponsored me, to go and learn about regulatory impact assessment. They said when we are making the regulations, we must open the window to test how it feels. Our women are crying. Ghanaian businesses are folding up. Our youth can no longer have access to funds to go for business. Government should stop competing with the businesses in the fund market or in the loan market. And in this way, Mr. Speaker, we may be able to increase the employment rate in the private sector. And it is not enough for government to be employing the people and be putting them in offices. What are we may be sitting in Tambon. So thank you very much, Honorable Stephen Amwa, for your statement. Mr. Speaker, once again, I want to appeal to you that you refer, even if it's an ad hoc committee, so that we select professionals in this house to consider this thing and make an input to be able to assist the Minister for Finance going forward. We must do it together. If we prosper together. And if we fall together. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity given me.
Yes. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to also make some contribution to the statement ably made by the member for Ishaiso, the Honorable Dr. Stephen Amoa, relating to Treasury bill rates and fixed deposits, the rates in Ghana. And he sees them as the major cause of Ghana's double-digit interest rate. The Speaker, the Constitution recognizes that the secure democracy that we aspire to is one that assures basic necessities of life for its people as a fundamental duty. Mr. Speaker, again, the Constitution recognizes that we should afford ample opportunity for individual initiative and creativity in economic activities and foster an enabling environment for a pronounced role for the private sector in the economy. This is a recognition of the fact that the state cannot play the role of providing employment, providing food security, and so on. The state only provides a facilitating role. Mr. Speaker, it is for this reason that the statement becomes all the more relevant. Government is seen as the most credible borrower in any environment. Mr. Speaker, it's because the risk associated with lending to private sector does not really obtain when it comes to...
Honorable Leader, a minute. Honorable members, having regard to the state of the business of the House, I direct that the House sits outside the regular sitting hours. You may continue, sir.
Mr. Speaker, the risk associated with lending to the private sector does not really affect lending to government. Even if government defaults, certainly it will come back to make good what is being lent to government. But the private sector faces enormous challenges, including in particular the cost of capital itself. And that is what the college is relating to. The high cost of capital that is lent to the private business persons. The cost of energy, cost of water, cost of utilities. Mr. Speaker, interest rate, the inflation, depreciation, the exchange rate. Mr. Speaker, the economy should be made predictable for private investors. If I'll be able to attract them, if it is not predictable, based on the fact that the interest rates cannot be predicted over a reasonable period of time, if inflation cannot be predicted over a reasonable period of time, if depreciation cannot be predicted, if exchange rate cannot be predicted, then you impose great risk on a private investor. Mr. Speaker, it is the reason why investment in the country has become a much serious consideration for private investors. Growing up, you stayed in your village, maybe 5 miles, those days 6 miles, 8 miles, 10 miles from Kumasi, or from Tamale or from Accra. We didn't want to come to Accra for anything, because the petty trader who came to Kumasi to buy and came to sell in his store could predict his own or her own margin of profit. And then over 1 year, you could buy the same thing. The cocoa farmer, a year ahead, could know that I'm going to earn this, and then he could start investing in maybe his own house. They are no longer, these factors are no longer obtainable, Mr. Speaker, and so it makes the business of investing real capital in real the real sectors of the economy extremely difficult and dangerous for the private sector, which is why we are reducing ourselves into a nation of traders. Buying and selling is the most profitable. If you invest in industry over a 10-year period, the Speaker, you may regret. If a person with the same capital went into trading over maybe a 4 or 5 year period, he will earn more than 50 times what you envisage to earn. The cost of building materials is going up, so you start constructing your factory. Over 2-3 years, you are not able to the structure alone, much less bringing the equipment and machinery, because the cost of cement is going up. You couldn't predict even at the beginning of the year. Mr. Speaker, these days, increasingly, every year, we have our ministers of finance, mid-year, coming for a review of their budgets. And when they come, they relate to the realities of life. Interest rate is going up, or the exchange rate, the currency is depreciating. So what they planned at the beginning, and let's not forget, your budget is your work program for the year. If you cannot predict for even 1 year, what do you expect investors to do? You yourself, you are acknowledging that you can't predict even over a 1 year period. Today we tell ourselves that the budget should be a rolling budget, which should span a 3-year period. And even 1 year, we're not able to predict. That's the situation that we find ourselves in. So when people talk about having a development plan for maybe 10 years, 20 years, or as people are now saying, the AU agenda, 2063, the Speaker, how realistic would that be? It cannot be realistic because we are not in an environment where we can even predict over a 1 year period. That's the reality. And so we should be able to stabilize our system. And if you're able to stabilize, not until you're able to stabilize it, Mr. Speaker, I think we shall always be in difficulty. We should be able to escalate production and add value to the producers from this country. Not until we're able to do that, it will be difficult. And if we should put our eyes on borrowing to always rev up our economy, we'll be in trouble. We should agree, Mr. Speaker, to rake in taxes from the system. Unfortunately, when we come to discussing these things, people are making politics out of it. And that's the tragedy of our circumstances. We should agree that we cannot continue borrowing. If we cannot continue borrowing to really re-energize the system, what do we have to do? We need to collect sufficient taxes from the system to rebuild our system. That is where the salvation lies.
Agreed.
And surprisingly, we have people politicizing every step that government takes. No, there shouldn't be any additional taxes. So where is government going to have money from to develop the economy? Where is government going to have money from to develop the economy? And Mr. Speaker, we must admit that interest rates are even climbing now. And for the elucidation of my colleague, the Honorable Ahmed, in 2016, interest rates were around 40%. As we speak today, they are in the region of 21-22%. They've climbed down. Treasury bills, 2016, 22%, 25%. Today, Treasury bills have climbed down, 365-day Treasury bills. They've climbed down significantly to about 14.5%. And policy rate, 25.5% in 2016. Today, as we speak, they are hovering around 13-14%. And yet, we are not reaping the dividends. Why aren't we reaping the dividends? We are not reaping the dividends because of the issue that you are raising. Because of the difficulties, because of the bottlenecks, the banks are still lending to government. And government is not engaged really in real development. Mr. Speaker, as the Honorable Jinapo and Adongo were
the
saying,
second deputy speaker
today,
to take the chair.
Today, Mr. Speaker, we are going to allow the metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies to borrow on account of their own books to develop. If we should do that, the cost of borrowing will still escalate. Will escalate further. If we come to that determination, it will escalate the cost of borrowing. And if they are not going to invest in real capital, Mr. Speaker, then the nation will be in trouble. So if we are going to allow them to borrow, we should let them channel the borrowing into real development. If we don't put strictures on them, and they are only going to borrow to pay themselves, to pay the assembly members, or perhaps for fanciful projects, I'm afraid the cost of borrowing from the banks is going to go up. It's not going to climb down. We are in a competitive world. We are surrounded by francophone countries. You go to the Côte d'Ivoire, you go to Togo, you go to Burkina Faso, and the lending rates, the Speaker, are less than 1/2 of what obtains in Ghana. Lending rates in the Côte d'Ivoire around 5-6%, in Togo around 7-8%, in Burkina Faso around 7%. So, which investor will come to Ghana and invest? But for the fact that they recognize the stability in Ghana, nobody will be attracted to come to Ghana. Mr. Speaker, so this statement is a very good statement. I think we should ponder over it, and if I may, like some others have suggested, perhaps we can constitute a small team to further deliberate on this and come out with proposals which then would involve Parliament sitting with the Ministry of Finance plus the Bank of Ghana to chart a proper way for us as a nation. Just so, Mr. Speaker, to position this country to be able to stimulate our development agenda. I thank you very much for the opportunity.
Very well. So, respectfully, leader, respectfully, any indication?
Yes, Speaker, I believe we can lay some reports. We can lay some reports. Page 4. Page 4. Yeah, Mr. Speaker, but before then, I think the recommendation that I made was that further to the statement ably made by Honorable Dr. Stephen Lamwa, we can constitute a small committee to further deliberate on this, to come out with proposals for us going forward, whether it may become necessary for the committee to engage the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Ghana in order for us to come to some determination on effective, I don't know whether to say policing or perhaps structuring of our treasury bills rates in order to be able to facilitate real growth in the economy. I'll propose that we form such a committee.
That is in respect of the statement.
That is so, Mr. Speaker.
Well, well. So, can I hear something from minority leadership?
Mr. Speaker, we are in agreement. I think I first suggested that, and it has been confirmed by him, so we are in it together. And I believe 5-member or 7-member committee will be okay.
So, leadership, may you help me with the names? So, leadership, can you confer and furnish me with the names?
Mr. Speaker, I'll plead that you allow us some time to come to some stipulation on that. Forming a small committee, maybe not more than 5 or 6 member committee. But we can do that and submit the names to you latest Thursday.
Very well. Yes, Minority Leader.
Speaker, once you have deferred to leadership on this matter, may I indulge to remind the Leader of Government Business that pursuant to Article 187 of the Constitution, we had also agreed, guided by the Speaker, to have a committee to look into post-public accounts audit reports. Leadership was supposed to confer and provide the names of the committee so that the recommendations of the Public Accounts Committee will go beyond the rhetoric of public sitting in order that we can bite at those who infringe public financial management processes and systems to the disadvantage of the state and its resources. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm reminding you further that leadership must bring conclusion to this matter. It cannot be so since 1992 that this Parliament, every other time there is Public Accounts Committee report, nothing happens beyond it because this Parliament or parliaments have failed to constitute that committee. We had assurance from leader, and I think that we, just as we gave Friday deadline, it should be added to the deadlines of Friday so that the Post-Public Accounts Committee envisaged in Article 187, if you indulge me, I'll just quote the particular paragraph for the record. The particular Article 187, it should be 6 or 7. Article 1876. Parliament shall debate the report of the Auditor General and appoint, when necessary, in the public interest, a committee to deal with any matters arising from it. Matters have always arisen from it. 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion, 20 billion, unaccounted for. Mr. Speaker, we must be seen acting on this. I thank you.
Yes, Leader.
Mr. Speaker, this matter has come up on many occasions, and I remember the last time I related to this. The Article 187(6) provides the Parliament shall debate the report of the Auditor General and appoint, where necessary, in the public interest, a committee to deal with any matters arising from it. So it's been long outstanding. We've not dealt with it. What should we do? The Speaker, if you look at the construct of 187(6), it will suggest that anytime Parliament debates a report, the Auditor General and there are matters of concern, they must appoint a committee. So should it be a permanent standing committee or permanent ad hoc committee to deal with it? That's number one. Number two, the Speaker, we should not reinvent the wheel. I do recollect that when the Honorable Kandapa was the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, Parliament came to discussing this very matter. And then in composing the membership of that committee, we ran into some hurdles, including bringing in a member from the judiciary. And we had some difficulties, which is why I said we should reflect on it and then come to some form, some permanent determination on this and constitute that committee. And I think that we cannot, at every term, constitute a committee. It should be more or less another committee, but there should be some permanence for that ad hoc committee to be dealing with this. So that's number one. Number two, Mr. Speaker, as members may recollect, I drew attention not only to 187(6) as the minority that is relating to, I drew at 184(4) as well. Should it be one in the same committee? Because it also provides in 1844 that Parliament shall debate the report of the Auditor General, that is in respect of foreign exchange dealings, and appoint where necessary in the public interest a committee to deal with any matters arising from the report. Same language as in 1876, as obtains in 1844. Should it be one and the same committee? Mr. Speaker, I believe Parliament should come to some determination on that. And once we agree, then we can put the committee together. And as I said, because we've had some previous experiences, that experience should guide us into what to do. And I think we will not be found wanting when we come to deal with this. Again, the Speaker, if we allow ourselves some time, I'm not too sure, by whatever it takes, by the end of this meeting, this committee must be constituted. And I think we are capable of doing that. Would have consulted the previous occupants of that chair, what experiences they went through, to guide us into constituting that particular special committee. We need that. Parliament needs it. And indeed, the nation needs it. In these days when we have so many infractions in order to guide us. Because already, Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General's report is a post-mortem exercise. And if you should allow 3-4 years down the lane before we come to establishing its effects, we become moribund. And I think that it's important that we do this. I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The leadership, is it possible to capture this committee, whether it's going to be permanent, whatever it is, into the new standing orders? Can you look into it from that angle too?
Mr. Speaker, maybe we could, but I think that even in the absence of that, we can, as of yet. We can, as of yet, with goodwill on both sides, we can put it together.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, like the Honorable Leader of the House said, the matter keeps on coming and we keep on postponing it. And sometimes when you engage CSOs outside, they raise that same issue. So once the leader has indicated that by the end of this meeting, the committee should have been established. This committee's essence is different from the new standing orders. Its attacks may be different from the new standing orders. And if you want to predicate this one to the new standing orders, it may end up, I don't want to be a prophet of doom. It may not end up not being able to. Because yesterday at Kumasi, Mr. Speaker said the new standing orders may take effect next year. And even if you are able to establish this one, next year when the new standing orders will take effect, we may not find it difficult even inserting it in. So let's go by what the leader said. But I was thinking of the normal. Looking at Public Accounts Committee being chaired by a member of the minority, this committee should be a 7-member committee and it should exclude leadership, because leadership, we are always very busy. It should exclude leadership and it must be chaired by a member of the minority. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Opposition. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I believe these details will be discussed by leadership. So, Leader.
Well, Speaker, so the assurance of the leader of government business is reassuring. We'll work with him to get it constituted, but to let the Honorable Deputy Whip appreciate that you are not out of place when you suggested that the new standing orders could contemplate such a committee. If that is the path we want to walk, we can call it Post-Public Account Committee, Post-Public Account Committee. And leader, if you recall, subsequent to one of the CPA meetings, may the soul of Apodola rest in peace, one of the clerks, one of you at table will remember, had insisted on a post-legislation scrutiny committee. I'm sure that is the thinking of Mr. Speaker when he talks about this kind of committee. So in some jurisdictions, we can have it, but we'll work with leadership to get it in place, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Very well. So, Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we can deal with we can start with public business beginning page 4.
So, honorable members, we begin with
Mr. Speaker, attention has been drawn to some miscommunication or a mix-up in communication in respect of items listed as 8. Those items listed under agenda number 8. That is the statements by the audit committee of the various ministries. My understanding is that the Deputy Speaker referred the annual statements by the audit committees of the respective ministries to the superintending sector committees. The Speaker, the Right Honourable, made a contrary referral to the Public Accounts Committee. So I think we should resolve that matter. Indeed, if they should be referred to the Public Accounts Committee, then unlike what we have been doing, then those reports ought not be laid by the respective sector ministers. They should be laid by the majority leader. But in the past, what we have done, that all these have been laid by the sector ministers, which is why referral has been made to the superintending sector committees. The Speaker, I think that is how it should be. But the Speaker has a contrary opinion. So I guess it's important that we sit to resolve it. And once we resolve it, then we'll see our way clear. So having said that, Mr. Speaker, I think it would be wise then to stand the items listed under agenda number 8 down, all of them down, until item 8 from A to D. You can take E from the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. And then when we are through with it, we'll come to the addendum order paper.
Yes.
Report of the Public Accounts Committee on the report of the Auditor General on the management and utilization of the District Assembly's Common Fund and other statutory funds for the year ended 31st December 2017.
Honourable members, the report is duly presented. It is referred to the Committee on Local Government. Committee report. Yes, so it's for distribution to honourable members. So we move to page 6, I.
Report of the Public Accounts Committee on the report of the Auditor General on the accounts of district assemblies for the financial year ended 31st December 2017.
Honourable members, the report is duly presented. It is referred to for distribution to honourable members. I.
Report of the Public Accounts Committee on the report of the Auditor General on pre-university educational institutions for the financial year ended 31st December 2017.
Honourable members, the report is duly presented. It will refer for distribution to honourable members. IV.
Report of the Public Accounts Committee on the report of the Auditor General on the public accounts of Ghana, technical universities and polytechnics for the period ended 31st December 2017.
Honourable members, the report is duly presented. It is for distribution to honourable members.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, my understanding is that as captured in the votes and proceedings of Friday, the 12th of November 2021, a design and build contract agreement between the Government of Ghana and represented by the Ministry of Roads and Highways and Mrs. QGMI. Mr. Speaker, this has nothing, the Q has nothing to do with LGBTQ. It is Mrs. QGMI Construcciones y Infraestructuras Globales, QGMI, and Rango Construction Company Limited, RCCL, for an amount of 115,873,217 euros and 78 cents for the design and construction of the Producer Manfikofobia Scenic Route project. Mr. Speaker, my information is that the figure contained in that was wrong, and it read 150 million euros. So in that regard, Mr. Speaker, I will beg your indulgence to withdraw that paper that was late on Friday, the 12th of November 2021. I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, it was done on Mr. Speaker, so it was late Friday, the 12th of November 2021. So I beg leave to withdraw that one. And when we have done so, then I'll come back with the correct version.
Yes, Minority Leader.
Speaker, ordinarily I should have no problem with the leader laying this, but my understanding the financial terms of this matter is being considered by the Finance Committee, and there was some conflict with numbers. 150 million euro, 150 million euro, 165 million euro. One leader, even as you lay it, we demand that the cabinet correspondence on this matter be made available to us, whether it's an executive approval, it's a cabinet approval. We need a fine detail of what was approved by cabinet in order that we can reconcile it with these numbers. My briefing from the Finance Committee this morning was that there were some discrepancies in the numbers. 165 million euro in a page, 150 million euro in a page, 50 million euro late, and therefore, as he lays it, we demand that the official communication from the President must be made available with all its accompanying documents pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution. With that detail, Mr. Speaker, he says he is laying. So let him lay. Then he can then withdraw. But he cannot be laying and withdrawing at the same time.
Well. Yeah. Respectfully, Leader, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, the minority leader is insisting on the details of the project. I think that ordinarily should not come without any question. He says that he needs a cabinet approval. I disagree with him for any cabinet approval that he wants. I've always insisted that in this country and under the 1992 Republican Constitution, executive power is vested in the President and the President alone. Cabinet has no responsibility to Parliament. If they approve anything, they advise on basis of their consideration. When Cabinet peruses documents and they are convinced on account of that, they advise the President. The President then comes with his own words. Executive approval. So if he has executive approval, that is it. The communication from the office of the President bears the figure 150 million euros. I think it's the communication from the ministry that had that mistake. From the presidency, it is 150 million euros. And that is what we deal with. It's executive approval that we deal with. If there's any misalignment from the ministry should confer with the President and sort it out. But the communication from the President mentions the figure 150 million euros. We expect the Finance Committee to interrogate that figure and come to the House to advise us about the propriety of that figure. And indeed, whether we're going to have value for money in respect of the application of 150 million euros on that road. Mr. Speaker, that is all that is required of us. So having said so, Mr. Speaker, thank you. So if you agree, as I said, we will withdraw the paper laid on Friday, the 12th of November. And once you grant us that leave, then we'll come back with the new.
Very well. The Leader of the House, your leave is granted. And the paper that was laid on Friday, the 12th of November, as captured in today's votes and proceedings, is hereby withdrawn, together with the referral that was made to the Committee of Roads and Highways.
Speaker, having so done, I will accordingly present to the House the design and build contract agreement between Government of the Republic of Ghana, represented by the Ministry of Roads and Highways and Michelle's QGMI, and Rango Construction Company Limited for an amount of 150 million euros for the design and construction of the Peduasi Manfikofobia Scenic Road project. Mr. Speaker, I will do so on behalf of the Minister responsible for roads and highways.
Very well.
Design and build contract agreement between the government of the Republic of Ghana, represented by the Ministry of Roads and Highways and Messrs. QGMI Construcciones y Infraestructuras Globales and Rango Construction Company Limited for an amount of 150 million euros for the design and construction of the Pediase Manfe Koforidia Scenic Routes project.
Honorable members, the agreement is duly presented. It was referred to the Committee on Roads and Highways for consideration and report. Honorable members, we are masters of our own rules. We will allow the leader to present a bill. So, leader.
Mr. Speaker, let me first apologize to colleagues that these are budget-related matters. They should have been done last week. Unfortunately, I wasn't here, and I think the attention of leadership was not drawn to it. Because the budget is coming tomorrow, they ought to be done today before the budget is introduced. The reason why we have to do it the way we are doing. Not the best, but I believe colleagues will appreciate where we find ourselves. So having said so, Mr. Speaker,
Honourable members, therefore, presentation of first reading of bills.
An act to regulate the application of tax exemptions and other exemptions and to provide for related matters.
Honourable members, the bill is read and presented for the first time and is hereby referred to Finance Committee for consideration and report.
Mr. Speaker, just that we are all learning, table to be guided. We serve notice of this, and the notice must capture the short title of the bill, not just a long title you read, for the record, so that we know a bill, tax, I didn't hear tax, exemptions bill is laid before this House. But to remind the leader of government business that this is not the first time a tax exemption bill is being presented before Parliament. When Ken Ofori-Atta became Minister of Finance, one of his major first budget highlights, he brought it. It is languishing in a committee of Parliament. So, table, check the record that we are not accommodating two bills on the same subject matter. So check your record. I'm aware that a tax exemption bill was announced in the 2017 budget and economic policy statement. Consequential referral was made, like I said, I don't know the status of it. So if after 2-3 years you are back to appreciate that you need exemption, we'll take a very strong view and position on matters of tax exemption and value for money. When we do take the position, we'll communicate same. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the issue raised by my colleague is a matter that is very germane, and really it should concern the entire House. There are too many tax waivers, tax exemptions. We want to appreciate the impact of these waivers and exemptions on the economy. And when they relate to countries, we want to also assure ourselves of whether or not reciprocity exists between Ghana and those other countries, so that, Speaker, we are sure of what we are doing as a country. And then also, when these exemptions have been granted, waivers have been granted, after the transaction is over, or sometimes the transaction is not over, it's being implemented, equipment is worn out, vehicles are worn out, then you see the companies go out there and sell the equipments, including vehicles and so on, without paying duties. What is it that must be done? I remember recently something happened to my own constituency organizer. An embassy sold a vehicle to him. And when he was driving, he was accosted by officers of revenue administration. And then the obligation was passed on to him that he should come and pay duty. It doesn't lie with him to pay. It's the embassy that ought to have paid. They didn't disclose the information to him. The Speaker, he cannot be wrong. As I speak to you now, that vehicle is impounded. And the people are afraid to deal with the embassy. They are afraid to deal with the embassy. It shouldn't happen that way. So, Mr. Speaker, is the reason why when the matter went before the committee, it was suggested to government that government should come with details of the implications of that bill. I'm not too clear in my mind whether the first bill was withdrawn. What I recollect, though, was that Cabinet came to charge a subcommittee to deal with it. And after they had dealt with it in greater detail, it was introduced. The Speaker, Cabinet, when they are through with that, would then advise President. They will advise President, because Cabinet has no locus in Parliament. They don't respond to Parliament. They respond to the President. The Speaker, the minority leader should get me right. He should understand the trajectory. It is not for Cabinet to come to this House and explain anything to us. It's for the President that we can hold to account. That's the point I'm making to him. So, Mr. Speaker, I think we'll have to investigate further if the first we're not passing too much. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe we'll sort that out. I was referring to Alaji College Dauda, if perchance I'm recording. He was the one I was addressing as a side issue.
So Leader, may I find out, can we revisit that particular bill? Or I know if a bill stays in the committee for, let's say, a year or more, obviously it will elapse. So in this particular situation, what will be the situation?
The Speaker, indeed, the language in the statute is 3 months. It's not go beyond 3 months. But ordinarily, or normally, we have a way of resurrecting them. And then the committee continues to deal with it. But this particular one, the Speaker, I think it was not even this Parliament, this 8th Parliament. It was the 7th Parliament that the matter came up. So let's see. If that's the case, it will even suffer a natural lapse. That is, if that Parliament was not able to deal with it. But we'll see the chair of the committee to determine for ourselves what stage it is in. But I think that because it was the previous Parliament, this Finance Committee will not have any responsibility to deal with it.
Well. So, any indication, Mr. So, leadership, any indication?
Mr. Speaker, if you made the necessary referral to the bill that I presented, and I think it should go to the Finance Committee. If you've done that, then I guess we can take note of it. And in that regard, Mr. Speaker, has that referral been made? Yes. To the Finance Committee? Yes. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, as the House is aware, tomorrow, 17th of November, we're going to have the presentation to this House of the budgets and economic policy of government for 2022 fiscal year. And we expect members to be seated at 10 o'clock sharp so that we receive the Minister for Finance with the presentation. Mr. Speaker, I will plead with colleagues that we should all be here at 10, possibly to be seated a few minutes, maybe 5-10 minutes before 10, to enable the Minister of Finance come to deliver the statement. I'm sure we're not going to take any other business. I'm not going to take any other business apart from the presentation of the budget. I see some urgent questions. I don't know, because we are not here, but I believe the questions may not be asked. So we'll just have the presentation of a paper, the annual report on the petroleum funds for the 2021 fiscal year, and then the budget statement and economic policy would follow soon thereafter. So the Speaker, once again, to appeal to colleagues that we should be seated latest 10 minutes to 10 to enable the Minister come and do the presentation at sharp 10 o'clock in the morning.
Mr. Speaker, there was supposed to be a joint caucus meeting, but I was not here when the business committee report was read the last time. I don't know whether that has been done, but if that has not been done, I'll plead with the leader of the House that leadership on behalf of the two sides must meet after this adjournment and put the House in good order. Because the cameras will be on us tomorrow, and it will not be appropriate now that the leader is making this call. And I've seen that a lot of the seats members are not here. So only few of us who are hearing it, possibly tomorrow, may be able to comply. But if the leadership we are able to meet after adjournment, if there are some documents that may be requested, then those documents will be requested. Before tomorrow, 10 a.m., we will be able to know how good we are going to keep the house. Other than that, Mr. Speaker, we will keep on whipping, and the horse may die. So to avoid overbeating the horse, let's leadership engage. I believe, as I'm speaking, the Honorable Deputy Minister for Finance is also here. He's also listening. And tomorrow, the leader of government business has done his part. He's whipping us. The chief whip is seated. He also whip, but equip them to whip properly. The word to the wise is enough.
Yes, honorable members, those of us whose question has been advertised for tomorrow, that is a provisional order paper for tomorrow. Bear in mind that tomorrow is a special day, so your questions will be rescheduled for another day. Honorable members, the time is beyond 2, so I will go ahead to adjourn the House to tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the forenoon. And as the leader of the House has said, tomorrow we are going to get a lot of visitors, so we should put ourselves up very well. So let's come on time so that we don't give very bad name for ourselves. So on that matter, the House stands adjourned till tomorrow.